All right, guys and gals, thanks for joining us today. We're happy to have you to break down this webinar, roofers, and how repeatable processes will help you scale. So this is going to be a good one and a quick one. So if you are enjoying lunch at your desk or with your team, sit back, relax, and feel free to drop your questions in the chat comment, and we'll make sure we get to any questions at the end. So here's the agenda of what we're going to cover. Why roofers hit a plateau, systematizing your business, how to know if your processes are actually broken, and then evaluating and implementing repeatable processes, right? So these are important elements to your business, and we want to make sure that we touch on these. So again, I'm Bruce with Best Roofer Marketing here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been in digital marketing since 2006 at some of the largest national and international agencies in the world. And we're really excited at Best Roofer Marketing to be serving the roofing industry. So this is going to be great. So let's kind of dive right in and break it down. Why do roofers hit a plateau in their business, right? A lot of times there's seven-figure metrics that roofing company owners are looking to achieve. The first is obviously the $1 million mark. Next, they'll want to get to 2.5 million, 5 million, and then ultimately 10 million, right? So it's a game of doubles. And growing from 1 million to 2.5 million is completely different than growing from 1 million to 5, 2 million to 10, and so forth. There's kind of check marks and timestamps within your business that you actually have to achieve. So we want to dive into a little bit about why roofers hit a plateau. Now, I've been very fortunate to build top-performing sales teams, organizations within organizations, my own company within larger companies and organizations. And what I really found out is that there comes a day when you really stop competing for business in your local market and instead you're competing for talent. Unfortunately, many roofing company owners never recognize that day. And one of the reasons that roofers hit a plateau is because they run their business like every day is a new adventure. And I can say this assuredly and with a lot of confidence, the best performing roofing companies in America have very dialed in processes and systems that are repeatable to scale. So we found that building the top performing sales team did not mean that you had to scale the business by hiring the slickest sales guys, being the best recruiters. The reason that you're able to scale your business is because you have the best processes and they're dialed in. So you can't run fancy free where every day is a new adventure and expect to scale because you're always solving a new set of challenges. The best salespeople, which ultimately we all are as roofing company owners on this call, really control the entire process. And the way they control the entire process is one, they have that defined, and two, it's repeatable. Another reason why roofing companies will hit a plateau is the lack of focus and attention on revenue generating activities. Oftentimes, customers will think that they have to have everything buttoned up in their business when they're starting out or when they're looking to scale in order to grow. And that's simply not the case. We believe in the build the airplane in the sky, right? So if you're at the top of the mountain, you worked hard to climb there, you're ready to jump off and take the plunge. It might be a bumpy road for the descent for a little bit, but you're going to actually have to build that parachute in the sky or build that plane in the sky. And you're going to learn your processes as you go, but you always have to keep a laser focus on revenue generating activities, making sure that 7 days a week, 365 days a year, you have processes in your business dialed in, focused on generating revenue. Everything else in your business will get easier and you're not going to have it all figured out. I don't care if you're just starting out and you're trying to do $300,000 in your first year, or if you've been around for 40 years and you're doing 100 million. Your processes are still going to change based on the adoption, based on weather, implementation, new things going on in your marketplace, new competitors. There's a million reasons. You have to refine your process. You have to continuously evaluate your process, and you have to automate your process. And then lastly, we find one of the major reasons that roofers hit a plateau is the team gets bored of being in the trenches without a solid company culture. So we're going to go a little bit further and we're going to cover these in more depth. First thing you need to do, in our opinion, is you need to write out your plan. And again, we believe writing it down, not on a whiteboard where it's going to be erased. You can sketch it out there, but you need to have this plan in a company file on a Word doc and a PDF, save the drive where it's accessible by your leadership team or your team, depending on the process. But first thing you need to do, write out your plan. What are your biggest areas of opportunity? And then from there, start with the end in mind. You need to find out what's causing you to lose deals. Is it purely price? Is it based on your sales process? You don't deliver the value, you don't educate your homeowners. Find out where the gap is and reverse engineer the end dollar, that $15,000 residential asphalt that you should have closed. What went wrong in the process? Fix it. And next time you should not lose that deal if you truly fix it. We're talking about getting to the root cause of the problem. Additionally, you got to change your mindset and really prioritize recruiting. A lot of people say always be selling, the ABS, right, model. We say ABR, always be recruiting. You should have a pipeline so deep of people wanting to come work with you, whether that's recruiting from competitors, hiring people out of the local college, asking your friend whose kid just turned 21 at the barbecue. You always want to have a mindset of recruiting, because if we can get you dialed in with automated processes, we can get you set up where you're closing business and you're not just promising guys the pot of gold of a six-figure income, but you really have processes to help teach them how to get there. And then you have a pipeline of people wanting to come work with you because you have a badass company culture. That's how you're going to scale, right? You need to write down what are your areas in the roofing company that need to be automated but currently aren't. So there's a million things that you can do with automation today and still not look cheesy. You can automate different types of things like getting your reviews. You can automate your sales training. You can automate different processes within your organization that are now accessible and ready to go without you having to get in the weeds as the company owner or a leader in the marketing department or the sales department or operations, because they're just automated in place. So it will take a heavier lift to set it up, but I assure you, when you have your systematic processes in place, you'll be good to go. And another thing is, you can't just set it and forget it, right? Your business is not a rotisserie. You need to regularly review your processes and always account for variable change. So not to get political, but there's a lot of rift in our country right now, no matter what side of the line you're on, in all these different political affairs. And I believe part of the process is that we're still using processes that were applicable for the last 10, 20, 30, 50 years. And the processes that were written, by the old white guy up in the government are still being used today, but our company has evolved, right, and changed. So there's a lot of things with your processes in your organization that get stale or that don't get overlooked. And you just crack the whip on your, let's just say your sales team and say, hey guys, this is the process, stick to the process. Well, that's cool if it works. But you should always remain open-minded and regularly review your processes for feedback, because there could be areas of opportunity that your team can bring to your attention that are going to be super helpful. So that being said, you need to break down your repeatable plan, right? Break this down daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annually. What are your daily numbers that you need to hit from an activity standpoint, team collaboration, touch points within the day, communication, etc. Weekly. Do you have a very systematic process to run an efficient team meeting? Are they always different? And if so, you might be spending 2 to 3 hours a week preparing for a 1-hour meeting because it's always different. But if you have your cadence locked in, hey, we open with donuts and coffee and we go around and tell dad jokes. And then we watch a quick motivational video. And then we get into teach the teacher, and somebody on the team actually stands up each week and shares a best practice or something they saw in the field that they ran into to share that communication. Then we get into a pipeline review. Then we hear from our leaders, and then we move on. If you have your process in place, you can run efficiently, not only in the meeting, the 1-hour meeting a week, but you can also cut down maybe that 3 hours of prep time because you're doing something different all the time to 30 minutes a week just to fill in a couple of simple slides on a deck that you need to address. You want to systematize your business. On a monthly level, are you doing additional trainings? One of the things why people leave the roofing industry is that it's a great industry to work in, but they are underserved from a training perspective. A lot of times it sounds like this: hey, I'm going to go hire this kid, and I'm going to tell him that it's six figures, because that's the buzzword, right, to this young adult. And then they're going to go hop in the truck with Larry. And Larry's going to take them out there and show them the ropes for 2 days. And then it's sink or swim. It's a numbers game. Guys, just go bang on a lot of doors. You'll get rich, right? And it's not that easy. And we all know that. So we need to stop fooling ourselves. We need to invest in regular training. You can bring in your partners. You can bring in your territory sales managers from GAF or OC. You can bring in your distributors, people in the networking community, insurance claim experts. Invest in training your team and do it on a regular basis. On a quarterly basis, right? You need to know what your metrics are that you want to grow by. And are you doing team building events to really create that dynamic culture? So having built the top performing sales team, we were so good. We took our quarterly events to monthly, and each month we would allow our team to pick what we were going to do. Now we were down in Tampa, Florida. So we would say, hey, do you want to go to Universal Studios or Busch Gardens? Do you want to go deep sea fishing? Do you want to go to a park and have a barbecue and play outdoor games? The team would pick it. And then everybody within that month or that quarter had to achieve their metrics in order to actually go on the excursion. And that creates a culture of team accountability, guys. And that's huge. So definitely invest back in your team on not just educational things, but on the fun things to really build that culture. And then lastly, right, what is your budgeting on trade shows? How many are you going to go to? How many conferences? Who are you going to take? What's the educational component going to be on an annual level? And what's your growth plan going to be on an annual level, right? How many employees do you want to grow by? Not just revenue, but what does that look like by employee count? So these are things that you need to break down and know, and then hold yourself accountable to. Let's talk about systematizing your business. When you think about systematizing your business, right, what areas can you systematize? Again, we covered your team meetings, sales group text, right? So this is a big thing. Get GroupMe or something to the like. It's a free app, and allow your team to go in and communicate with each other every time you set a new appointment, every time you conduct an inspection, et cetera, right? We want to be able to allow your team to communicate with each other on a regular basis and open those lines of communication. As any owner, CEO, or sales leader will tell you, communication is paramount. So regular shout outs. You can automate that through the text. Regular trainings, marketing. You can automate your internal and your external, right? So on an internal basis, are you consistently prospecting? What's the customer flow? What does that marketing journey look like? Are you using automations like Jobber, Go High Level? There's a big out there, House Call Pro, et cetera. On an external basis, do you meet with your marketing team on a regular basis? Hold them accountable to monthly review calls. Once you get dialed in, maybe you move this quarterly because you're making money. But you should be able to schedule this out for the whole year, and then it's done. And then that's 11 other phone calls or texts throughout the year you don't have to respond to schedule the meetings with your marketing team, because you're driving down the road and you're at the QT and you're getting a hot dog and a soda, and you got to keep on trucking, and you think, oh, I haven't talked to my marketing guy in 3 months. It should be automated. Software for your customer experience, software for invoicing and billing, software for obtaining reviews, marketing. There's a lot of things out there with software you can automate. It's not to spend $200,000 your first year on buying all the software that's available, crawl, walk, run, but you can definitely do a lot of things systematically with software. Another process you really want to systematize, guys, how do you handle a storm? So this is key, right? We've done a lot of research on this. A lot of roofing companies have different opinions, but when there's a storm, they pop up. It's unexpected, right? You may have a couple of days notice, but in many cases, hail can come out of nowhere. So what you want to do is know what your marketing plan is, what your canvassing plan is, what do your team blitzes look like? Do you hop on the phone and call people? Hey, we noticed there was hail in your neighborhood. We just want to reach out and introduce ourselves. How do you handle that before the storm? What is your process during and after the storm? And then another big one is recruiting. Again, always be recruiting, guys. So what do you do to recruit? Whether that's, once a quarter, you do an open house at Topgolf and you invite people to come out and swing golf clubs and buy them some wings and beers. But have a consistent process for your recruiting. And there's many more, but these are some of the top ones that we think you should really put attention and focus on to systematizing your business. Now, how do you know if your processes are broken? It's a question we get often. One of the things that we found in corporate America that worked really well are employee surveys. And there's a lot of free or inexpensive ones out there, but put out regular employee surveys and get feedback. right? They're confidential and you don't have to discriminate. Same thing for your customers. We ask for reviews, which is great, but we only ask for reviews from customers that we know are happy or going to give us 5 stars in many cases. What we're not doing is giving customer surveys for their true, honest, raw feedback on the entire experience, where your project manager came out there and he was unprofessional and he was late and he was using profanity and he was blocking the neighbor's driveway, right? So put out customer surveys. You also want to evaluate how much time you're spent on task. Just because an employee, or yourself for that matter, spends X number of minutes or hours on a particular task doesn't mean it's the most efficient way to do that. So can you get back time, as we've shared earlier, by automating certain things? What are your error rates? How many times do things happen, both from a customer perspective and internally, right? How often do mistakes happen? And if you're continuously getting mistakes, it's not always a people problem. A lot of times that's a process problem. So those are things you can address. How easy is it for an employee, sales, client, and education? How easy is it for them to get their training and so forth, right? Do you have the tools in place to keep people on track and keep them consistent? So I'm going to tell a quick story here. We had about a $40 million roofer. They're in 5 states. And I sat down across from the company owner. And this roofer said, "Hey, Bruce, listen, our sales processes, we have 10 salespeople in, let's just say, Florida. And our 10 salespeople down here, if they came out to your house, each one of them, you would have 10 different experiences, 10 different quotes, 10 different processes with you as the homeowner there, and 10 different stories, right? Sales pitches. And they don't have anything to keep them consistent. So one of the things that you can do easily, it's a service that we offer, is create a very aesthetic, visually branded, educational infographic that is printed out or on your tablet for your team to use when they're at the homeowner. And this does 2 major things, guys. This will allow you to differentiate yourself from anybody else in your marketplace, right? You can completely differentiate yourself because nobody else is going through a detailed educational process for that homeowner. So if they're getting 3 quotes, and your guy is a little bit higher, but he came out and really took the time to be thorough and go through the entire educational process on why you should do an insurance claim, what your deductible looks like, the fact that your insurance isn't going to be raised, all these different things, it's going to set you apart, and the homeowner will likely go with you, even though you're more, because you took the time to educate them. Do you have your processes accessible, right? Is there a company catalog available to your team that they can go in and review the processes to make sure that they're accurate and autonomously make sure that they're doing things the right way? One of the questions you want to ask yourself, guys, is, unfortunately, one of the many facts of life is we're all going to pass. If something happened to you, God forbid, what would happen to your company? What would happen to your team? Would your company be able to continue? Could somebody step right in because all your processes are documented and get the ball rolling? If something happened to you, how difficult would it be for the business to continue? That is what you have to ask yourself. And you want to start to prioritize the processes that you're addressing from that day forward. What's most important, most critical to keep the business operational? What are some of the luxury processes that could improve efficiency? Start with your most important ones first and go from there. So evaluating and implementing repeatable processes. When you're evaluating and implementing repeatable processes, one of the things that you actually want to do is, in marketing, we call it A/B testing, right? So we'll create a website, we'll create a landing page, and we'll test the results because each market is different to see which one's converting better. But you want to ask yourself, is your team using their CRM? Are they putting in all the prospect info, the appropriate stages, close probability? When you make the CRM, for example, just about you wanting the data, it's a complete time suck for your employee. When you make the CRM process about improving their efficiencies to get more deals closed and make more revenue, then all of a sudden it's highly interesting and you can get an adoption. Are they following up with the connections that they made and setting calendar reminders? If a homeowner tells them to follow up in 3 months, do they have a dial-in process to do that? You got to ask yourself this. If your team gives you pushback on your CRM, or implementing any of your processes, educate them about why the process is there. An analogy we always would ask our team when they would give us pushback on the CRM is, hey, tell me what you ate for lunch 3 months ago on March 7th. Where'd you eat lunch and with who? What did you discuss at that lunch and who paid for lunch? If your team cannot answer with that much detail, exactly on point without hesitation, that is why you use a CRM. Because we're busy and we're talking to dozens of homeowners a day. And if we're doing our jobs right, we're in the community, we're creating social content, we're going to networking groups. It is hard to keep up with it all. So they should use the CRM to keep themselves organized and make sure they are more efficient with their repeatable processes. And then we talk about implementing, right? So how do you implement repeatable processes in your organization? Well, the old adage, you eat one elephant, one bite at a time, right? First, we would recommend you break out your company into departments, even if you're a small roofing company. Who's in charge of sales? Who's in charge of operations? Who's in charge of marketing? What does that leadership team look like? Then subcategorize what the processes need to be. Have each one of your department leaders, whoever oversees those divisions within your company, the bigger you are, the more departments you'll have each leader create a draft process for their department. Delegate the lift so you're not sitting there as the owner trying to figure out every minute detail of your business and how things flow. That's what you have a leadership team for. But you can review and tweak the processes, approve them, and then file them, make them accessible to the right people at the right times. You want to create a rollout and training schedule for your processes. Guys, don't overwhelm your team and give them 50 new processes and a whole booklet all at once. Review these things on a monthly basis in your regular team meetings. Roll out a process or two, get adoption, show the improvement, then roll out another one. But continuously review for employee adoption and make sure they're following the process. And always, always check against the metrics and adjust accordingly. If your process is great in your head and it's great on paper, but it's not causing improvements, reevaluate that and look at opportunities to improve it and go from there. Here's some of the benefits you're going to get from having repeatable processes in your business. First of all, top sales teams replicate everything. As I shared with you the story about being the national sales director and having the top sales team in the country at a $2 billion marketing agency, it was built solely predicated on the best repeatable processes. You scale if you're efficient. Business owners, this gives you time to take care of your family. That's why we all got into it, right? At the end of the day, everybody says, I want to make money, and that's great. But what do you do with that money? Otherwise, it's just a number on a computer screen in a bank account. It's to take care of your family. It's to take care of your community. It's to serve your church. Whatever your deal is, that's what you're really doing it for. So the more you can run your business efficiently with repeatable processes, the less time you have to be in the office in the weeds, and the more time you can spend doing the things you love. It also portrays expertise to homeowners, which will directly impact your bottom line and your closing ratios, because you're coming out as an expert with processes. You're exuberating that you've done this a million times, that you know what you're doing. You're just walking them through the conveyor belt. These are the checkpoints, Mr. Homeowners. This is why we're going to take care of you. It's going to be great. Rest assured, we're all dialed in. We're the pros. So it's going to help you close more deals, as I shared. It's going to increase your recruiting and your employee retention ratios, because, like I said, a lot of times roofing company employees will bolt because you're running your business from the hip, off the cuff, and there's no professionalism in your processes. It improves accuracy for your accounting department, your revenue department, your closing percentages, all the KPIs. It's just going to improve the accuracy because you got the process dialed in and you know where to go look for the information. And lastly, it will make it easier to have a good financial or handoff exit when you're ready to sell or pass the business on to a loved one, right? Let's say you're building this roofing empire for your kids and it's multi-generational and you inherited it from your grandfather and you want to pass it down to your great grandchildren. Take the time to button up your processes and make it easier for a safe exit when you get ready to sell and pass on the business. These are some of the goals, right? So from a marketing perspective, look at this. We always want to share this. When you're starting out in your first year and you're sub $1 million, you're chasing that 7-figure mark, you need to be spending upwards of $15 out of every $100 earned on your marketing. So you can get your processes closing ratios in place to dial that back. Typically, we find that roofing companies that are around 3 million are spending 8 to 10% of their top line revenue on marketing annually. 5 million is normally 5 to 8%. Typically 10 million and above is around the 5% mark, right? So if you want to scale your business, one of the things you need to do is not just have repeatable processes in place, but have a repeatable commitment month over month, year over year to invest in the right marketing partners to help you achieve your goals. So hopefully this is helpful, guys. Again, this is Best Roofer Marketing. I'm going to stop recording now, and then we'll answer any questions that you guys have offline. This will be available for you, distributed through social media channels, housed on YouTube. And for anybody signed up today and register for the webinar, you're going to get this in your inbox. So thanks so much for joining, guys. Best Roofer Marketing. If you want to be the best, hit us up. Book 30 minutes for a complimentary strategy session. Let's learn a little bit about your business and see if we're a good fit.